Disastery Channel brings you another special edition dedicated to the most heaviest and most metaliest motherfuckers to ever die doing it. So sit down, put your feet up, and strap on your underpants as Disastery Channel presents 10 heavy metal legends who died tragic deaths, with a dash of disastery dark humor, of course. In 1980, Bon Scott, the legendary frontman of old-school hard rock stadium smashers AC/DC, died tragically at the age of 33, leaving fans all across the world shaken all night long. AC/DC, aka Akadaka, are loved far and wide, with crappy cover bands continuing to crack out their catalogue of classic rock anthems such as Thunderstruck, You Shook Me All Night Long, and Back in Black, much to the drunken delight of many a munted Aussie punter. Bon Scott's distinctive raspy voice, rebellious attitude and wild charisma transformed AC/DC into one of the most electrifying hard rock bands of all time. Scott's lyrics were witty, cheeky and rebellious, often filled with humor and streetwise storytelling. Favorite songs sung by Scott include Highway to Hell, Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap, Whole Lot of Rosie, and TNT. Scott became the embodiment of heavy drinking, head-splitting, high-energy rock and roll, and he was completely unpredictable on stage. He would do just about anything to entertain and thrill a crowd, even if it meant pretending he knew how to play the bloody bagpipes. Bon Scott also banged a boatload of bow-legged groupies. Tragically, his life was cut short when a massive night of partying found him dead in his car after choking on a whole lot of vomit. Bon Scott was replaced by Geordie singer Brian Johnson, who is known for his silly hat and voice that sounds like a high school girl being forced through a blender. And, despite going on to continue their massive success across the world, the band was never quite the same since. In 1982, heavy metal god and virtuoso guitarist Randy Rhoads died tragically in a plane crash at the mere age of 25. Rhoads was one of the founding members of influential early heavy metal band Quiet Riot in the 1970s, before joining Ozzy Osbourne's band as lead guitarist. When Rhoads went for his audition, Ozzy Osbourne confessed to being high as fuck and was unable to believe his ears. Rhoads had barely finished warming up when Osbourne hired him on the spot. Rhoads' prodigious playing style was a face-melting fusion of neoclassical, soul-shredding heavy metal genius, which was as brilliant as it was groundbreaking. Rhoads played on the band's first two albums, Blizzard of Odds and Diary of a Madman, with the guitar solos on Crazy Train and Mr. Crawley, regarded as some of the greatest heavy metal shredding ever committed to tape. In his short lifetime, his playing influenced and inspired many other famous guitar shredders such as Eddie Van Halen, Steve Vai, Kirk Hammett of Metallica, and Dimebag Darrell of Pantera. Tragically, Rhoads died while on tour when he and Osbourne's tour bus driver, Andrew Aycock, took a light plane on an unauthorized joyride and attempted to buzz the tour bus in a move straight out of the movie Top Gun. Unfortunately, while making a dangerously low pass, the plane clipped the tour bus, lost control and crashed into a nearby house, killing Rhoads, Aycock, and another passenger instantly. The news of Rhoads' death devastated the rock world, and many believe he had the potential to become one of the greatest guitarists of all time. In 1986, Cliff Burton, bass player for heavy metal mega band Metallica, was tragically killed in a bus crash in Sweden, aged 24. Burton served as Metallica's bass player from 1982 until his untimely death in 1986. He played on the first three Metallica albums, namely Kill 'Em All, Ride the Lightning, and Master of Puppets, the latter of which is regarded to this day as one of the best heavy metal albums of all time, and an album that changed the trajectory of rock music forever. Burton was known for his unique bass playing style, in which he approached the bass more like a lead guitar, incorporating classical influences, including intricate picking and finger-picking techniques and fingerings, as well as using effects such as distortion and wah-wah pedals to push the boundaries of the instrument. Examples of his innovation and virtuosity can be heard on his solo work on Anesthesia, Pulling Teeth, as well as tracks such as For Whom the Bell Tolls, Orion, and Master of Puppets. Regrettably, he died in September 1986 when Metallica was on tour in Sweden promoting Master of Puppets. The band was sleeping on their tour bus in the early hours of the morning when the bus skidded on an icy road and overturned. Burton was thrown from his bunk and ejected through a window before being crushed beneath the bus, dying at the scene. His memory lives on to this day, and his playing influenced many other musicians, including Steve Harris from Iron Maiden, Les Claypool of Primus, and Robert Trujillo, who later went on to join Metallica himself. Burton's passing marked the beginning of the end for Metallica, with most hardcore metal fans considering Master of Puppets to be the band's magnum opus. Despite having some heavy-as-concrete riffs and face-shredding guitar solos, the bass can scarcely be heard on And Justice for All, and the much-anticipated Black Album was an overhyped, overproduced, watered-down piece of shit, thanks to the work of Bob Rock. As for any albums after that, the less said about those, the better. Chuck Schuldiner, aka the Godfather of death metal, was the original founding member of pioneering death metal band appropriately named Death. Sadly, Schuldiner died from brain cancer at the young age of 34, really putting the death into death metal. Death's first album, Scream Bloody Gore, is widely considered the first true death metal album, establishing the genre's brutal sound, growling vocals and fast-paced riffs. For those not familiar, death metal can best be described as thrash metal with vocals so scary that nobody, not even the lead singer, can understand them. In fact, at one point, the vocals on Death's records got so scary unintelligible that Schuldiner formed a side project called Control Denied just to keep the monster at bay and to preserve his sanity. Schuldiner was the only consistent member of Death throughout the years, which went through many lineup changes. He played lead guitar and growled vocals on many albums. Tragically, he was diagnosed with brain cancer in 1999. Unfortunately, being a virtuoso musician in a pioneering death metal band doesn't give you health insurance, and even though fans tried to help by raising money for his cancer treatment via crowdfunding, brain cancer is ultimately a death sentence, and he passed away peacefully at his home in December 2001. Schuldiner fundamentally changed the face of heavy metal forever, and elevated death metal beyond mere screamy, shouty, aggressive metal to a much more sophisticated, intelligent, and progressive art form. His work inspired countless artists in more extreme genres of metal, such as Cannibal Corpse, Meshuggah, Opeth, and Gojira. Dave Williams, the original lead singer for American metal band Drowning Pool, died at the age of 30, which we can all agree is far too young for a badass metal singer. Williams is best known for his powerful vocals, his intense stage presence, and the hit song Bodies, which became one of the most iconic nu metal anthems of the early 2000s. The song's aggressive energy and its signature chorus, Let the Bodies Hit the Floor, made it a staple at concerts, sporting events, and even military settings. Dave's big personality and goofball nature made him one of the most beloved figures in the early 2000s metal scene. He could be intense on stage, but off stage, he was known for being one of the friendliest, funniest, and most down-to-earth guys in the industry. Dave was a big fan of pranks and surprise stage diving, but he had a habit of doing it when no one was ready. On one occasion, he leapt into a crowd that wasn't paying attention, and they didn't catch him. He hit the floor hard, got up and joked, "Well, that didn't work out," before jumping back on stage like nothing happened. Legend has it that this is where the idea for "let the bodies hit the floor" originated, or maybe that's just some made-up internet bullshit. Tragically, Dave Williams passed away on August 14, 2002, while on the Ozfest tour. He was found dead on the band's tour bus due to cardiomyopathy, a heart condition that essentially weakens the heart. Williams' legacy lives on through the album Sinner and the impact he had on the early 2000s metal scene. Darrell Lance Abbott, aka Dimebag Darrell, or just Dimebag to his friends, which is basically everybody, is a semi-immortal metal god, famous as the legendary lead guitarist for groove metal juggernauts Pantera. He was shot to death at age 38. Dimebag revolutionized heavy metal guitar playing with his signature aggressive riffs, squealing pinched harmonics and crazy whammy bar dive bombs. Dimebag and his brother, drummer Vinnie Paul, co-founded Pantera in the early 80s. The Abbott brothers experimented early in their career with different metal styles, including glam metal, before both deciding that tight jeans and makeup were stupid as shit, and went back to their original authentic ripped jeans and t-shirt look. They then recruited Phil Anselmo as lead singer and released the seminal album Cowboys from Hell. and a legend was born. Pantera took over towns across America under the barrage of a relentless tour schedule. Pantera went on to release albums far beyond Driven, Vulgar Display of Power, and The Great Southern Trendkill, and almost single-handedly carried mainstream heavy metal through the 90s, when other so-called metal bands, like Metallica, were busy selling out, or whatever the hell they were even doing. Dimebag Darrell's life was tragically cut short when, on December 8, 2004, while on stage with his new band Damage Plan, 25-year-old ex-Marine Nathan Gale rushed the stage and shot Dimebag multiple times at point-blank range. In the attack, Gale killed 3 more people and injured several others before being taken out by a nearby police officer. Gale was confirmed to be both mentally disturbed and a massive dickhead. He believed Pantera had read his mind and stolen his lyrics, and even blamed Dimebag for Pantera's breakup. Dimebag died at the scene in true Cowboy from Hell fashion, and his last words were reportedly, "Van Halen." Dimebag will be forever missed. His artistry defined the genre of groove metal and made him one of the most influential and beloved guitarists of all time, winning countless Best Guitarist awards. He is also recognized by his pointy-colored devil beard and his fully sick signature Dean guitars. More importantly, Dimebag will always be remembered as the raddest fucking dude on tour, and he was always there for anyone who needed him with a kind word, a funny joke, or a double shot of up at the crack of noon whiskey. Rest in peace, Dimebag. Paul Gray, founding member, bass player and key songwriter for nu metal giant Slipknot, died tragically at age 38. Gray co-founded Slipknot in 1995 in Des Moines, Iowa, alongside drummer Sean Crahan and guitarist Joey Jordison. Paul Gray is widely considered the heart of Slipknot and the glue that held the band together, helping them rise from underground obscurity to global metal domination. Slipknot was once described as 9 guys trying their best to play Slayer, but without the actual talent to play Slayer. Having said this, they did carve out a few bloody brutal tracks, such as Wait and Bleed, Duality, Psychosocial, and Spit It Out. Gray was known for his powerful bass playing, magnetic stage presence, and his role in shaping the band's aggressive yet melodic sound. Unlike many bassists in metal, Gray's style was heavy, fast, and central to Slipknot's chaotic energy. His inventive, unique bass-playing style featured heavy, detuned bass lines and blended groove and chaos, seeing him switch from brutal chugging riffs to melodic lines on the smash of a cymbal. In a gimmick, which either made you love or hate them, Slipknot had this thing about wearing masks all the time, possibly because they're all grotesquely ugly, or possibly it's some sort of bizarre sex kink. Gray's thing was to wear a leather pig mask, which apparently symbolized being treated like an outcast and the darkness in his mind. But after he became richer and less bitter, he changed to a plain grey mask with black eyes. Tragically, Paul Gray was found dead in a hotel room in Urbandale, Iowa. The official cause of death was accidental overdose on morphine and fentanyl. The autopsy revealed that heart disease and past drug issues contributed to his death. His doctor, Daniel Baldy, was later charged with manslaughter for overprescribing painkillers to multiple patients, including Gray. So, even though Slipknot isn't Slayer and will never be Slayer, they are still a pretty fucking rad heavy metal band, and Paul Gray was instrumental in making all of that happen, and he helped create some wicked bad heavy tunes. So respect to Paul Gray for keeping it heavy. Regrettably, another one of Slipknot's starting lineup also suffered a tragic death. Slipknot's original drummer and co-founding band member and songwriter, Joey Jordison, passed away in 2021 at the age of 46. Jordison played drums on the first 4 Slipknot albums, namely Slipknot, Iowa, Volume 3, The Subliminal Verses, and All Hope Is Gone. He was known for his amazing double-kick-based drumming style, which boasted incredible speed and endurance. Unfortunately, in 2013, Jordison was fired from Slipknot due to what his bandmates then believed was a drug addiction. However, the truth was that in 2010, Jordison had been diagnosed with a neurological disorder, transverse myelitis. The disease affects the nervous system, and Jordison lost control of his legs. By 2013, he was struggling to walk and had to relearn how to play the drums. Jordison received an email from his bandmates informing him of the decision that he had been fired from Slipknot. Jordison was heartbroken by the betrayal and never did reconcile with his bandmates, but he always declared his love for the Slipknot fans. Despite his serious illness, he went on to keep playing music. He regained his drumming ability but never returned to Slipknot, instead continuing to decimate on drums with bands such as Scar the Martyr, Vimic, and Sinsanum. He also filled in on drums for other famous metal acts, including Rob Zombie, Ministry, and most famously, Metallica. Sadly, on July 26, 2021, Jordison passed away in his sleep at his home in Walkie, Iowa, due to complications of his disease. Jordison was widely respected as one of the best metal drummers to ever do it. He could play at speeds above 200 BPM for extended periods, and he often did so while wearing a full body suit and mask, while spinning upside down on a hydraulic drum riser. There aren't a lot of drummers who can do that on a good day when the wind is right, and he did it all while suffering from serious illness, which just goes to show what a bloody beast Joey Jordison truly was. He never made his condition public, instead choosing to battle on against incredible odds to keep doing what he loved doing, which was to be a fucking badass heavy metal drummer. His legacy lives on today through his music, and he inspired countless young kids to get behind the drum kit. Rest in peace, Joey Jordison. In 2013, Jeff Hanneman, legendary guitarist for Slayer, the most thrashiest band of all time, died aged 49. Hanneman was the founding guitarist, main songwriter, and primary creative force behind Slayer, the most metalist and meanest of the big four thrash metal bands alongside Metallica, Megadeth, and Anthrax. But let's just all agree that nobody is more Slayer than Slayer. Jeff Hanneman was the evil mastermind behind some of the sickest songs in heavy metal history, including Raining Blood, the main riff for which he wrote in 10 minutes. During rehearsal one time, Hanneman casually started playing the riff to which Kerry King uttered, "Dude, what the fuck was that?" 1 hour later, Raining Blood was finished, and a metal masterpiece was born. Raining Blood became the final track on the band's 1986 release Rain in Blood, which is widely regarded as the best thrash metal album of all time. Coincidentally, Metallica also released their epic album Master of Puppets that same year. But as good as Puppets was, nobody is more Slayer than Slayer. Hanneman was famous for his obsession with collecting World War II, and particularly Nazi war memorabilia. This often resulted in accusations of anti-Semitism being leveled at Hanneman and the band, but those idiots never bothered to do their homework. If they had, they would have quickly found out that Hanneman's wife was Jewish, which renders these rumors ridiculous. Hanneman was behind some of the best metal records ever conceived, including Rain in Blood, Seasons in the Abyss, and God Hates Us All, as well as writing one of the most criminally underrated metal tracks of all time, Dead Skin Mask, which he wrote about infamous serial killer Ed Gaines. Hanneman was even more renowned for his prolific ability to imbibe alcohol. After a Slayer show once, Jeff had been drinking when a drunk guy walked up to him and said, "Dude, I'm Jeff Hanneman from Slayer." Hanneman laughed and said, "No, dude, I'm Jeff Hanneman." The guy got angry and insisted he was Jeff Hanneman. A small fight broke out, and the real Hanneman knocked the guy out with one punch. Security dragged the fake Hanneman out, and the real Hanneman went back to hammering beers. Tragically, in 2011, like something straight out of a horror movie or a Slayer record, Hanneman was bitten by a spider, which led to necrotizing fasciitis, a flesh-eating disease. Hanneman nearly lost his arm and had to stop playing guitar. During his recovery, he drank even more heavily than usual. Over the next 2 years, Hanneman's drinking quietly destroyed his health, and by the time Slayer was ready for their next album, he couldn't return to the band. On May 2nd, 2013, Jeff Hanneman died from liver failure due to alcohol-related cirrhosis. As tragic as it was, Hanneman probably had the most heavy metal death ever, and he will go down in history as one of the best metal guitarists to ever sling a six-string. His death also spelled the beginning of the end for Slayer, who were never quite the same band again, before breaking up in 2019. Rest in peace, Jeff Hanneman. Nick Menza, ex-drummer of metal megastars Megadeth, died suddenly and tragically at the age of 51. Menza played alongside Dave Mustaine, Marty Friedman, and Dave Ellefson, who are widely regarded to be Megadeth's classic lineup, and were responsible for the thrash metal masterpieces Rust in Peace in 1990 and Countdown to Extinction in 1992. Menza laid down some of the nastiest and most thrashiest drum tracks ever devised, including Holy Wars, The Punishment Due, Tornado of Souls, and Rust in Peace, Polaris. In fact, on the entire Rust in Peace album, Menza's drumming alongside the guitars and bass is tighter than an amphibian's asshole. Menza was a favourite with fans and continued to play with Megadeth until 1998. Unfortunately, during their 98 tour, Menza developed a serious knee problem that required surgery. Bandleader Dave Mustaine, who is notorious for being kicked out of Metallica for his raging alcoholism and also infamous for being a bit of a dick, replaced Menza with Jimmy DeGrasso before Menza could fully recover from surgery, and despite multiple attempts by Menza to rejoin the band, including a brief stint in 2004, Mustaine seemed to have a bed bug up his butthole about the whole thing, causing thrash fans the world over to suffer unnecessarily. Tragically, on May 21, 2016, Menza was performing live with his band OHM at a small club in Los Angeles when, during the third song of the set, he suddenly collapsed on stage mid-song. He was pronounced dead at the scene with the cause of death listed as heart failure. Menza was not the only ex-Megadeth drummer to die before his time. Original drummer Dijon Carruthers died in 1983 from liver failure. Gar Samuelson died aged 41, also from liver failure. And, in 2023, Lee Rausch died unexpectedly at the age of 58, but the cause of death is unclear. Menza's sudden death shocked metal fans across the globe, as he was only 51 years old and still very actively creating and playing music. However, at least his final moments were lived out doing what he loved, playing goddamn heavy, fast and aggressive music in front of his adoring fans. He will be missed. Rest in peace, Nick Menza. For the next video, click here. And make sure you like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and stay disastrous.